Does he want to fight you again? That's a brutal fight, man. It's a good fight.
I'm sure he says, yeah, he'd want to fight me again, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. He's on coaching the show because the winner of this fight ended up coaching the show.
But you did that before.
Yeah,
well, explain what the show you're talking about for people who know.
Yeah, so anyway, the UFC runs a show called The Ultimate Fighter.
The Ultimate Fighter,
we
which
call it
where you
Tough.
got your start.
Yeah, and I was a coach on season 2. I wasn't particularly interested in coaching this show for season 8, or they in now, I believe. So he ended up being a coach on the show because he won the fight, and which slates him against the opposite coach, and that coach would be Michael Bisping, another. But the fight is at 185 pounds, so I really didn't want to fight at 185 pounds. I wasn't interested in coaching the show, so this whole situation, I guess, played well for that. But, with him being tied up with the show and fighting Bisping, that fight probably won't happen till maybe July or August because they can't fight until the show plays completely out, and they're in the middle of taping, then they edit, then they air. So a potential rematch is sometime down the road from us. I'm not really sure.
How's your contract work? Not to get personal. I have a tendency to get personal with people when it comes down to money.
Is that why you're touching my knee? I thought that was.
That's probably not a good move.
I thought that was standard studio protocol here.
But how does that work for your contract with Ultimate Fighting? Is it 7 fights? Is it 5 fights? How does it work?
Each fighter is different. The standard contract is usually like 3 fights, and it's timed, like 3 fights or 16 months, or 3 fights or 14 months, whichever comes first. So they can't just say 3 fights and then give you 2 fights and not schedule you and just let you sit on the shelf for the next year. But do
you have a choice of who you want to fight? You have no say so.
When you're the champion, you have absolutely no say so. When you're one of the top contenders, pretty much your say so is very, very, very limited. And like with my last 2 fights, I didn't. Well, actually, my last 7 fights, I haven't had a say so. Even though after the second Silva loss, I wasn't a champion with Luter or Hamill or Henderson. These are the people that they basically said you're fighting.
Silva, the best pound for pound fighter.
Yeah, Silva.
Yeah, he's tough. He's good. He's technically very sound fighter. He's I'm assuming they do a good job of breaking down tape prior to the fight, and he does an excellent job of making adjustments in the fight. And so yeah, he's a heck of a fighter, man.
What do you think? Who should he fight?
I'd like to see him fight Henderson again. I mean, it's tough, especially when you think you won the fight.
Dude, you want Henderson, right?
Yeah, but it's not going to happen for a while, so we got to think of some other dream fight.
What about punching that guy right there?
No, you trained.
That was when I was 25 years old. I'm 47.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, I trained in fighting my brother on the living room floor.
Hey, there's some merit to that. Hey, so have you ever put him in the submission hold?
I got a good show called. Actually, I got a good triangle from the bottom.
Have you ever executed one on him?
No, but I'd like.
He wants to go. He wants to go a pound. What is it? Pound and ground? Is that what you want on me?
Ground and pound.
Ground and pound? Is that what?
Who would win in a fight, Michelle Obama or Barack Obama?
I'm going to guess. Well,
Michelle's bigger though, don't you think?
Does Michelle get to use her heels? Because she can.
Take it off.
Hang on a second. Let me get my traffic in here. We got Rich Franklin in just for a couple of more minutes. And we're talking... See, I grew up old school, and that's why we were in the middle of that. Boxing v. MMA. And MMA is totally destroying boxing.
Well, I mean, you talk about the days of Hearns and Leonard and Duran.
I remember, that's what I'm saying. When you were like Roberto Duran, and of course you go way back with Frazier and Ali and stuff like that. Now to see you with UV Henderson and stuff like that. That's what everybody's talking about.
Yeah, I think with boxing and all the different organizations there are now, and not being able to get people on the same page, and a lack of a good heavyweight name, especially. I mean, if you look, I was just looking through the boxing rankings with my boxing coach the other day, and I don't know a whole lot about all that kind of stuff, but you look at the top 10 fighters in all the weight classes internationally, and
you don't know a name.
There were maybe 2 or 3 Americans within the top 10.
20 years ago, you and I would both be able to name 10 of those guys in like 3 weight classes.
And so it's just with this sport coming in and kind of taking the limelight, it's going to be really difficult for boxing as a sport to recover from that. I enjoy watching a good boxing match.
Me too, man.
The sweet science of boxing and watching the technicality of the fight and all that kind of stuff. I enjoy it, and because boxing is a component of mixed martial arts.
Rich, a young kid, what advice would you give him if he had to learn one art self-defense? What would you advise him to take?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an interest thing. I think some kids are built more and geared more towards wrestling. Some kids are built more and geared more towards boxing or something like that. And you can get your kid in a non-contact boxing program where they're working on bags and focus mitts with a coach and all that kind of stuff. So really, it just depends on the interest of your kid. Jiu-jitsu would be a good way to go. It's like wrestling, and as long as you have good trainers and other intelligent people in the class to work with, it's a relatively easy way to grapple. And
do you ever teach anyone?
Hurt. I don't.
Oh,
I don't.
About with a kid like, well, you see, my kids are wandering around the studio.
It's amazing.
They're 9 and 7, but for these guys,
they're church mice.
Isn't it about getting them to focus? I mean, seriously, at this age, like, well, you're talking about boxing or judo or whatever just to focus on what you are telling them to do, or on the punching bag or whatever.
I think it's important, like, you put a kid in something like that where you give them, let's say they get into boxing or something like that, and you're going to put a kid in a class where they have to work on improving their skill in one specific little thing where they have to pay attention and on a daily basis work on making themselves better. I think it teaches a kid how to focus in on something just throughout their life and makes them understand in different areas of their life that things take constant effort and constant refinement.
Can I get into some kind of discipline where they don't try to kick me in the...
Eddie, I'd advise you, if you get in a fight, you should have a gun. That would probably help.
Me? No, I'm talking about the law. I can't even... They kick me in the
kids?
In the stuff all the time.
That should be a ground rule, like no hitting. Yeah, with my dad, if I ever did, he'd put the hammer on me.
Rich, thanks, kid. Rich Franklin, we'll talk to you.
Yep.
Website, what is it?
AmericanFighter.com, RichFranklin.com. They can check either of them out. We got some pictures of my eye, me getting stitches.
I was going to say, put a stake on that eye.
Needles,
does that still work when you put the stake on the eye?
Needles in the forehead, all that kind of stuff. Stitches in the shin. It's all in there, so they can check it out on the website.
I don't want to say anything, but Tracy said he could beat your ass. But anyways, we got the news coming up here, the home of the Reds, 700 WLW.